father.
First question here on the third row on the left.
Hi, Mark. Guilherme Giovannoni from ESPN Brazil. Last game, Pascal Siakam was playing very well through 3 quarters, but last quarter he had only 1 shot. There was a special adjustment, or you think that the pressure on the ball was enough to get him out of the game?
And none of our adjustments are really personnel specific against this team. As I've mentioned, you kind of have to, they play as a whole and as a unit, and you have to defend them as a whole and as a unit. And that's been our mentality against their team. And you just have to trust that if you do that, you can, limit as best you can the effectiveness of very good players like him. And even if you do that, they're going to get the best of you on certain possessions or certain nights. But we're doing the best we can.
Tim here.
Mark. Tim Reynolds, EAP. Happy Father's Day to you too.
Same to you.
When you're in the throes of it, like Indiana has the great finish in Game 1. You guys have the great finish in Game 4. Games 2 and 3 kind of went decidedly kind of one way in a lot of ways. It's been a really good 4 games, a lot of back and forth. When you're in it, can you appreciate that at all? Do you take even a second to say this has been a pretty good first 4 games?
We just appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity to play, this deep into the season. If you're playing this deep into the season, your opponent is going to be really good. They've won 12 games to get to this point, just like we have. You just know it's going to be unbelievable level. And there's definitely times in it where it's like, man, this is high level. And I've definitely felt that not only in this series, but in multiple series. But we're also trying to make the next best decision, win the next possession. So we're zoomed in on that as well.
Joe.
Warren, The Athletic. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Yep, same to you.
You talked after Game 4 about the lineup change, and you said you wanted to get Isaiah more minutes. So I guess I have 2 questions about this. Did that change enable you to sort of tinker with the rotation so Shai had more in the tank in the fourth quarter? And then also, prior to that, your starters had really dominated in their minutes, and then they didn't with the new change. So how do you reconcile with that going into Game 5?
Well, every game's different, first of all. But what I'd say is, the initial thought kind of had its desired effect, to your point, in terms of the starts we were able to get off of. But your starting lineup also is the first rotation decision you're making and has domino effects to the rest of your rotation. And I thought, in that game, we benefited from starting the rotation that way, even though to start the game, they were really, we gave up 20 points in the first 5 minutes, which isn't ideal. So it's a little bit of both, but we just thought it gave us the best chance to win Game 4 after looking back at the first 3 games. But every game's different. Like we've done that after wins, after losses throughout these series. We move things around pretty quickly to try to stay unpredictable and also to try to, scrape for every advantage we can, in what turns out to be close games.
Dan, third row on the right.
Dan Devine, Yahoo Sports. Kind of along those lines, I think before 2 games ago, Alex had only gone 30-plus minutes twice the whole season. Both of the last 2 games, 30-plus minutes. I know you've talked about kind of needing to keep the governor on him a little bit, maybe even to protect him from himself sometimes. How do you balance that preservation versus kind of going for the kill with his minutes this time of year?
I haven't talked about being conservative with him at all this time of year. I think this is the time you got to do everything you can to try to win the games, and pull out all the stops. So that's been the mentality. He's been great. The extra rest in the finals for all of the players is a consideration. You get a lot of rest in between these games, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But one of the advantages is the ability for everybody to recover and be as fresh as possible going into the game.
Joel.
Joel Lorenzi, the Oklahoman.
Is that your ringtone? Nice. It's very pacifying.
Mark, what have you seen from, I know you talked about Chet's temperament and sort of how he draws on performances that maybe he's not very fond of. What have you seen from both him and Jalen this postseason after games that maybe they're not very okay with in their eyes?
Same as always. I mean, they're unbelievable competitors. they grow through their experiences. They just take a great approach to being growing players on a big stage, playing in the best basketball you can imagine. And I think, zooming out from just them, I mean, these playoff series, at no point during the regular season do you play a great team 4 straight times, with the ability for that team to lock in on tendencies and change tactics and all the things that happen in a playoff series. And so as a result of that, you're just going to get pushed to the limit, in these series. When you play a really, really good team, a great team over and over and over again, your opponent gets pushed to the limit by you in the same way. And we've seen that now in multiple series where we've gotten taken to the limit by our opponent and vice versa. We've done that to people as well. And think understanding that's what it is and embracing that and understanding that there's nothing easy about that. It's very uncomfortable for individual players and for the team collectively. And like I said, the awareness of that and then the mentality of embracing that challenge is critical, and we have players that embrace challenges, and that serves us well in terms of being able to keep our foot on the gas when we're doing well or bounce back, when we're not.
Michael, Tim, and Mark.
Mark, Michael Grange from Sportsnet Toronto. What's it like not only yourself as a first-time head coach? I know you can't really reflect in the middle of a series, but also a team that's so young relatively to be in a finals. How are they responding to all those challenges? Just physically, mentally absorbing, the game plan flips, all these kinds of things. Like, just stepping away from wins and losses. How does your group kind of managing it?
I think pretty well. I think it's challenging. It is our first time going through it, so there's new experiences that we're going through. But I think our default approach serves us well when we're in new situations and things like that. But it's challenging. We're playing against a great team that's pushing us to the limit. Hopefully, we're pushing them to the limit in the same way. But there's nothing comfortable, about these games. It's a challenging opponent that's really testing us. And again, we just need to approach those challenges as opportunities. That's what our guys do. They do a great job of it. And we have to be better. We did not control that game. We won it, fortunately, but we did not control that game. And so we have to almost approach this like a loss, in terms of really needing to look in the mirror and make some critical adjustments if we want to give ourselves a better chance to control Game 5 and not just hope to win it.
Tim.
McMahon, ESPN. How have you seen Dub's game and impact evolve in the few years that you've had him all around, and specifically as a guy who you can say, hey, you're running point, you're a primary initiator and take pressure off of Shai?
Yeah, I mean, when he started with us, and this has been our approach with most players, it's not like we just hand them the ball. We put them in the system first, and the guys that are really efficient in the system, they end up banging the door down, and they kind of show you that they need more. And he was in that category. He came off the bench early on, and we weren't pushing every button for him, but he just kept, showing the ability to take more of a load, and his efficiency was not dropping off, and his impact wasn't dropping off. If anything, it was increasing. And usually, when those guys are doing that, they're declaring themselves, and he certainly declared himself. And now he's learning, all the lessons to be learned in that role. I thought in Game 3, his first stint was one of his worst stints of the series, and he kind of catches his breath and reflects on that, and he had a much better stint later in that game, and then came out and was really big time for us in Game 4. Not only his creation, but just some of the simple plays he made to put his teammates in advantages. As much as Shai, kind of closed the game, I thought he really kept us afloat in a lot of different periods of that game. And but I mean, he's still a third-year player. He's still learning. He's still growing. And like I said, this is challenging, playing a great team over and over again.
Mark, final question.
Coach Mark Spears, ESPN's Landscape. Happy Father's Day. I want to ask you about Coach Mac's presence in the hallway. Been there since the New Orleans Hornets were playing here. And also, I don't know if he was kind of pretty decorated women's basketball coach, high school coach here. I don't know if he ever talked about coaching and knew about that background, but just his presence and then also him as a coach.
Yeah, he'll pop me with some advice from time to time, and I take note. We take pride in and this isn't like our idea from a basketball standpoint, but we organizationally and as a city take pride in people having a first-class experience when they're here. Hopefully you guys feel that. Hopefully our fans feel that. We want the other teams to feel like that. We want this to be a great basketball environment and a great basketball experience for anybody that's here, whether they play for us or not. And he's in the visiting team section there, and I think he's a small contributor to that, in the most subtle ways. I mean, he's a great guy to interact with. I think he treats everybody with respect and dignity, and I think everybody, in that crew, they help create a great environment to have great fans. We have great fans, and they support that in their own ways. So it's not only him, but he's a great presence. I love hanging with him.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Shai, happy Father's Day. Mark Todos mentioned the other day that winning the possession of the ball was key for Oklahoma. You guys lost their possession in Game 4. You guys had only 3 points, 3 3-pointers in Game 4, the fewest since 2010. You guys had only 11 assists in Game 4, the fewest in the shot clock era. And still, you won the game. Is that what makes this group so special? The ability to find ways to win games when things seems not going so smoothly?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever it takes to win has always been our mindset. It's all that really matters with us. Now it's harder to win the way we played last game over the course of time, and we got to correct that if we want to come out on top. Yeah, we're grateful, thankful. We did enough to get a win, but we're not trying to rely on the way we played last game. We need to be better, and we're going to be better.
Mark in the front.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Mark Spears, ESPN's Landscape. Just wanted to talk to you about Coach Mack. He's been there for over 20 years, greeting people, greeting you, the visiting team. Just what does his presence mean to you? And I don't know if you've got to know him much, but just seeing him around every game.
Yeah, it's special. I think, you get so caught up in, your own world as an NBA player. You get so caught up in all the things that come with being an NBA. And people like Coach Mack, we have a bunch of them around the building. They're like a breath of fresh air. You walk in all serious, thinking about the game, whenever it is, and he's happy to be there, happy to hold the door for you, just the simple things in life. But yeah, and over the years, I've been able to get closer to him. I've met his granddaughter. He's a really great guy. I'm happy he's around. He keeps everything light around here. He's a big part of what we do.
Tim.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. How has Dub's development as a playmaker impacted this team, and specifically you guys in the two-man game down the stretch there? What do you think of that dynamic and that as a weapon?
Yeah, Dub has made tremendous strides. He's one of the biggest reasons why we're here. Him being able to shoulder what he does every night on both ends of the floor takes a lot of pressure off everyone else around him, including myself. He's a gamer. He's a winner. But he continues to get better in every situation, and he makes it easier for the rest of us around him, whether it's me in the two-man game, whether it's him switching on the 5 defensively. He's a Swiss Army knife, and he's only getting better with every game he plays, and I'm excited to see where he ends up.
In the middle.
Jordan Davis with Oklahoma. Shai, this is now your 5th time being in this best-of-3 kind of scenario in your career. What would you say that you're taking from those previous experiences, heading into these next 2 games, given it, obviously, the NBA Finals now?
Yeah. Learn the lessons. Learn the lessons from the past 4 games. And it's first team to 2 wins. Those 2 things, most importantly. 2 wins and you get the job done, and that's what I felt like I was focused on in the Denver series, and we were able to do so. And same thing for this series.
Vince, on the right side.
Shai, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. When older players talk about their experiences in the finals, they talk about going through it for the first time and how fatiguing and tiring it is, just not knowing how to prepare your body to play to mid to late June. It seemed like in Indiana, there were some points where you looked fatigued and a little worn down. Where are you right now physically, mentally, with playing this late into the calendar for the first time in your life?
Yeah, it's a lot of games. It's tiring for sure, but every game's tiring. When you're giving your all, every possession, you're going to be tired. I don't think I'm the only one out there that's tired. But yeah, it's something new for a lot of us. A lot of us haven't been this late into this season. But I think above all, it's been very fun. It's been everything I dreamt it to be growing up. There's no other place in the world I'd rather be, and I'm grateful to be here. Thankful for the experience for sure.
Go Dan, Joel, and Joe.
Dan Devine, Yahoo Sports. Before the last couple games, I think Alex had only played 30-plus minutes once or twice all year. Both the last two games, extended minutes for him. What does having him out there more do for you guys? Like, how do you talk about Dub making it easier for you? How does having Alex out there more make things easier for you?
Yeah, he's a gamer. You plug him in anywhere, any lineup, feels like any group. He makes a difference, makes everyone else around him better. He's always talking. He always knows where we're supposed to be, where the other team's supposed to be. Yeah, and he just he has instincts that are special, and I don't think you can teach things like that. Like, he just knows where the ball is going, where a rebound's bouncing to, how to get a deflection, timely steals. Like, he just has amazing feel for the game, and is an insane competitor. And I think you add those two things together, and then no matter where you drop him in the world, any basketball game, he'll make a difference.
Joel.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. Shai, obviously, the roles that Dub and Chet have in the series are not unprecedented, but being responsible for so much and so early in their careers is clearly a lot. Like, I wonder what you sense they learned in that Dallas series last year in terms of how to handle being schemed so heavy against, in a playoff series, the sort of game-to-game temperament you got to keep, and sort of how to bounce back over the course of a series.
Yeah. I think what they've done a really good job of is just getting better. I think through the two series last year, through the whole season, and then the three series leading up to this one, they just used every opportunity to get better. And because of that, because they focus on that, and because that's what they've taken care of, they've been ready for the opportunity and have excelled in the moment. So I think that above all, they've really hammered home. Like, as long as you're going to go through experiences and you're going to fail and you're going to succeed in some, but figuring out how to learn and get better through them is what's really going to help you ultimately get to where you want to get to.
Joe, last one.
Joe Masato, the Oklahoman. Shai, Kenrich played more in Game 4 than he did over the previous 3 games combined. What did you think of the minutes he gave you guys? And also, I know we've asked you a lot about him over the years, but just as one of the original holdovers with you and Lou, what has Kenrich just meant to you?
Yeah, he's played really well. He is a guy that goes in there, brings energy, doesn't think too much, changes the game. He's part of our DNA and our toughness, for sure. Like you said, he's been here for a long time. He's hard-nosed. He brings it no matter the setting. And you know what you're going to get out of K-Rich. Like, every coach knows what they're going to get out of K-Rich. Every one of us teammates knows what we're going to get out of K-Rich. And that's all you can ask somebody to be. Do their job and do it at the highest level every day. And he does that. And he's the ultimate professional. Really good player.
Thank you. Take questions around the room. Joel, first question over on the right.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. What's up? Mark was just in here saying that, the nature of the playoffs is, in a regular season, you wouldn't play a great team 4 games in a row and be schemed against so heavily. I wonder what you learned in that Dallas series last year in terms of what that takes to be schemed against so heavily, what you need to do in terms of temperament game to game to sort of stay level in a series?
Yeah. I think it's exactly that. Like, it's a very unique opportunity, and it's hard to, like, look at it now because obviously like, everybody's playing for a championship. But, like, regardless of the outcome, when you look back on the summer, like, you're going to know what you're good at and what you're not just based on how teams guarded you and what they tried to take away. And that's what I learned from Dallas. I think that's why I was able to kind of make, like, a bigger jump this year is, like, regardless of how that series ended, like, I knew what I had to work on this year, and I knew different ways to get better. And I think just whatever the series is, like, when you're playing somebody that much, like, it's going to force you to do something. You're either going to get worse or get better. And I think I kind of took that jump and
Joe,
kind of have the same approach with that right now.
Sorry, Joe.
My fault. Long pauses.
There's been a lot of talk this playoffs and a lot of evidence in these various series to support this, that momentum doesn't really carry over from game to game in a playoff series.
Yeah.
So when you're at 2-2 in a finals, where is your mind right now about how you feel about this series and how you approach the last 3 games compared to maybe the first 4?
Aside from, like, game planning and scouting, this is like a totally new series. Like, we're treating this as game 1. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really focus on what happened in the past or what you could have changed on game 1. You know, you're just looking at the fact that it's tied up now. And I feel like that's the most, like, clean slate attitude you can have with it. And that's the approach that I think both teams are taking. That's definitely the one we're taking. And you just kind of go in there and figure out how to win game 5, and that be it.
Tim, front right.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. They basically had you run point last game. What went into the development to get you to a spot where you can run point in the finals? Just how comfortable do you feel with those sort of responsibilities at this point?
Are you talking about, like, my development as a player here or just throughout my career?
All the above.
Okay. Well, I grew up short, so I've always been a point guard. Whenever I kind of get, like, a similar question to this, it's funny because, like, I did grow up playing the 1. A lot of times I think that always goes, like, under the radar. And, like, I played the 1 in college. But I think college, too, was, like, the first time that I got introduced to, like, playing a wing. Like, I had to play the wing my first 2 years. And then in my 3rd year, I went back to, like, something that I normally played at. And then same thing kind of like with the NBA. Like, I started off really running a lot of the wing up until my 2nd year. So I've had a lot of experience. Like, my learning curve was more like how to play off the ball than it was on the ball. So I'm pretty comfortable doing it. And I think at the same time, like, if everybody on our team can kind of figure out a different way to be successful and, like, change during the series, like, I can do that. And it's just something that as the game went on, it just, like, naturally, organically happened, and I was kind of ready for that.
Anyone else with a final question? We'll do the last 2 on the right side. Vince first.
Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. This has been a pretty emotionally, like, swinging series from game 1 to game 4. I can imagine how fatiguing it is. When you haven't played this long, this deep into a season, how do you manage the fatigue against the excitement and the opportunity of all of this?
Yeah, the emotional swings, I think I've honestly gotten better with them as time went on because we've had so many, like, different series of, like, you go to game 1 of Denver, I've never lost that way in a series that, like, means a lot. And then even, like, this one, like, the way we lost the first game, like, there's so many ups and downs, and we've constantly had that throughout this run. And then even last year, like, we've had so many of those. I'm kind of numb to the ups and downs, and it just kind of, like, comes with basketball. But as far as, like, my body and not playing this long, that all starts in, ironically, it all starts in June, whenever the season ends. But, like, taking care of your body throughout the season, how I eat, how I prepare, like, throughout the year allows me to be able to, like, play this way, and, like, my body feels good. What I'm doing after games to recover, win or loss, I think is a big one for me. So I try and do that pretty consistently and find a routine, and that's been really helpful.
Last one, back right.
Yeah, Cliff Brunt, Associated Press. I wanted to talk about a few ups and downs that you've had. Against Denver, a couple of rough games, but a really big game 7. Minnesota, game 3 was rough, but you came back with a really strong game 4 in the finals. You know, rough start, but yet game 3 better, game 4 dominant. how do you flush those games where you don't shoot well and then come back and not only shoot well, but do so in really important games that can kind of turn the tide of a series or clinch?
Just understanding that basketball is full of ups and downs and can't get too high or too low. It kind of goes like, it's like the same thing as like if I go the next game and I don't miss a shot, like it really has no bearing on what I do the next game. You know what I mean? Like I go out and not make a shot. So it's more about like understanding like all the things I can do to affect winning. Like we were like shooting like 8% from the three last game and still figure out a way to win. So there's always different ways that I can impact winning and stuff like that. And I work really hard on my game. So there won't be a game where I don't shoot well and it affects my confidence to not shoot those shots like my team needs me to shoot them. So that's kind of like the confidence I have going into it, and wherever the shots fall, they fall.
Thanks, Jalen. Fourth row on the right.
Hey Tyrese, a couple of years ago in that first in-season tournament run, NBA Cup run that you guys had, we asked you about how you guys got there and if LeBron was like the final monster of a video game or something like that. And you said that it felt like you guys weren't supposed to be there, like you guys were beating teams every time. It feels like similar now to these playoffs. How did that run help you guys get where you are now in these final two playoff runs?
Yeah, I think every moment throughout our journey as a group is a stepping stone. You learn from the good, learn from the bad to get to where we are today. So, all the good games, all the bad games, high-scoring games, low-scoring games, they're all lessons at the end of the day to get to where we are today. And here we are. So, it's all part of the journey.
Over here on the left.
Robert O'Connell, Wall Street Journal. Tyrese, you mentioned the other day in 2011 maybe not being the most massive Rick Carlisle fan as that team, the 2011 Mavs, is going up against LeBron in the finals. Can you walk me through, as a guy who grew up, loving LeBron's game, what do you remember of watching that series, the emotions, the frustration of seeing them pull that upset? Was it maybe your first intro to what Carlisle can do with an underdog team?
I really recall that being kind of like my first intro to basketball. My earliest recollection of watching the game is 2010 NBA. So I feel like that was really the growth of me as a basketball fan and really starting to appreciate the game more. But yeah, I don't know if I necessarily remember a ton of the X's and O's stuff. I remember I was confused as to why Dallas was winning. I didn't necessarily understand it. But yeah, no, I think that it's funny to look back on and think about. I think about that all the time in my journey here in the NBA. Is how much I've watched and learned and how I'm here, in it. So it's funny to think back on, and here I am with Coach Carlisle now. So it's definitely pretty cool.
Vince on the right.
Tyrese, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. This has been an emotional 4 games so far to this series, a lot of swings. With the way Game 4 ended and the disappointment of it, how do you flush that, if you flush it at all? How do you put that behind you mentally, emotionally?
Well, I mean, there's still a lot of games to be played. There's still a lot that can happen. I think once you get to the playoffs, I don't think it's so much about flushing things because you really got to take every game, see where you did well, see where you could do better, and learn from that. So I think in the regular season it's different. You play 82 games, play a team in game 10 that you probably don't see again until game 60. So it's just all right, flush it and move on to the next. In the playoffs, it's a little different. You don't really get the right to flush games. You got to learn from everything and watch the film and see where you can get better in every area. So game 4 didn't end the way we wanted it to, but the biggest thing is you can't let one spiral into 2. You can't take the disappointment of that game and let it be a snowball effect. It's you got to be ready to go for game 5 here again, a hostile environment, and we're both 2 games away. So anything can happen from here, and so you just got to kind of move on as quickly as you can, see where you can get better, watch the film, which we've done a lot of over the last 2 days, have a good practice today, and get ready to go for tomorrow.
Michael, hear you.
Tyrese, Michael Grange from Sportsnet in Toronto, and I'm just wondering, for a young team, what's impressed you, maybe even surprised you about the way your group has risen to the level of competition, the fatigue, what's demanded of teams trying to win a title here in the finals?
Yeah, there's no surprises, to be honest with you. I know our group very well. I'm proud of our resilience. We've had to find different ways to win, for the last 2-3 months. So proud of that, and we just continue to respond. So it's not the time to necessarily reflect on how the year's been. We still got a lot of work in front of us, but definitely excited about our group and look forward to continue to compete with these guys tomorrow.
Joe.
I know a lot of these sound similar, but it's a 2-2 series, and I'm just wondering how you feel about where you are right now, whether you're trying to handicap what's happened or what's to come, or just how you feel about it.
I feel great. It's the best part about playoff series is, when you get the chance to respond. I think that's the great thing about sports. It's you're gonna have good games, you're gonna have bad games, but there's nothing like the game to respond. So I look forward to doing that with this group and coming out and competing, and we got to be ready for a really big challenge that lies ahead with this team and in this environment. So I'm really looking forward to doing that with my teammates and seeing how we respond.
Tim on the left.
Tyrese, I know when you're playing in it, who's watching doesn't matter, but one of the big storylines coming in was these are two, quote, small market teams, whatever. The ratings haven't been great. What would you tell people who, for whatever reason, chose not to watch this, what they're missing?
I do not care, to be honest with you. This is high-level basketball, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, I couldn't care less.
We'll go last two on the right, and then Alvaro in the middle.
Joseph Pavone, Clutch Points. Tyrese, just over the past few years, what you've seen out of Aaron Nesmith, just coming from a younger player, still trying to find his way in the league, to the starter that he's become, and just some very impressive performances throughout this postseason. Just overall, what you've seen from him throughout this time.
Yeah, we traded for AA. I didn't know a ton about him. I knew we were in the same draft class and kind of always mentioned as two of the top shooters in our class. So I knew that, but I didn't really know anything about him, to be honest. And the more I've gotten to know him, there's not another guy out there that I'd rather go to war with. To be honest with you, I know that he's going to give 110% at all times. He works his tail off to get to where he is, and I think I've said it many times, but every NBA team wants to have a guy like Aaron Nesmith. His effort is unbelievable, his energy, his attitude, all those things. I know he's going to show up every day and be the same guy, and I think that's what I appreciate about him, the most.
Alvaro, last one in the middle.
Aldo Martin Ridmo. Every player I ask to remember their best games, their most outstanding games, they're games in which they did something on offense. In your case, you almost had a triple-double. So they remember the stats even. What are your best defensive games that you can remember? And did we see one in these finals?
Yeah, it's a funny question. I'm not necessarily known as a great defender. I don't know. I think any time or any game that I can just be in the right spots for us is important. I think that through this playoff series, especially Game 3, I thought we did a great job defensively of closing the game. So for me, I think I don't really look at where I am individually as a defender. It's team defensively, I feel like more times than not, if we're having a good team defensive game, I'm as solid as can be. So that's kind of how I try to look at it. I hope that our best defensive effort lies ahead. That's the goal. So look forward to the challenge.
Thank you, Tyrese.
Appreciate it.
Pascal, take first question up front. Mark.
Mark Spears, ESPN's Landscape. I want to ask you about Coach Mack, guy that's been standing outside the locker room for years. I know he's always said some pleasantries to you. Just want to see what your thoughts are on him.
Wait, who?
Coach Mack, outside, the attendant outside the visiting locker room.
Oh, yeah. No, it's good. Good. It's great to have. And all the support, just to have that, is always amazing and means a lot, means a lot to us.
Michael?
Pascal, Michael Grange, Sportsnet, Toronto. How are you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to ask you, your team is a relatively young team, and obviously in the finals for the first time. What have you made of their ability to adjust, to kind of manage the mental challenges, just to rapid game plan changes, all that stuff that goes into playing good teams over and over again. You've been through it, but just standing aside, have you seen your team manage it, and why do you think they've managed it well?
Yeah, no, I think obviously I think that the experience from last year was great for us. Just in being in those games that mattered a lot, and I think we've learned a lot from those games, and just being now at this stage, like I just think that we've had like those games under our belts where the guys feel comfortable that when we haven't done things well, we're able to correct it. So I think that experience is there, and we've been in those situations enough for us to understand, like what it takes.
Dan Devine, Yahoo Sports. You've been guarded by Alex Caruso a lot in this series. Similarly, kind of versatile player to you, can do a lot of different things on the floor. What kind of challenges does he pose when you're facing up with him and seeing more of him down the stretch last game? I know you guys got stagnant in the fourth. What kind of challenges does he pose?
I don't know. I think we just got to keep playing, being ourselves, and just play pace of basketball.
Steve on the right.
Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. Certain foul calls or non-calls seem to get into fans' heads quite a lot, and they get upset at what goes against their team. How do you guys guard against calls that you particularly disagree with getting into your heads and derailing what you're trying to do?
We just got to keep playing. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So we just got to keep playing. Find a way to be ourselves no matter what. And yeah, like I'm not gonna get into the little foul things. It is what it is. Just want to focus on the game.
Over here on the left.
ChinaPacers.com. In the last game post-conference, you said the team execution is not really well in the fourth quarter. And after the film session, what was the key takeaway for you to improve?
Wait, say it one more time. Sorry.
The last game that in the end of the press conference said the execution was not really well. So what in the film session, what was the key takeaway for you, the team to improve in this game?
Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to be giving away the game plan, but I think we just gotta be ourselves. I don't know how to answer that question, brother. I'm sorry.
Sam on the right.
Sam Amick, The Athletic. Pascal, your teammates talk a lot about your leadership and how vocal you are on this team. I wonder, if you go back to 2019 in Toronto, how different were you as a leader back then? How vocal were you on that team? And how much did that experience, they talk about how you bring that up now, telling them, like, don't take this for granted, realize what the opportunity is. How did that shape you?
Well, I wasn't a leader then. I mean, I was on the floor. I mean, I played, I was one of the guys, that would, go and get things happen for us. But off the court, I mean, I was year 3. Like, I mean, we had so many veterans on our teams, like, that's been through way more than I could ever imagine as a player. So I was mostly just like, grateful that I had those guys around, and just kind of lean into the confidence and the way they played to help me just play my game and be free. And I think this time around, just like having been one of the only guys that's been there, or like one of the few guys that's been there, and I'm year 9 or 10 or whatever, it's like I have way more, to say, and I can impact not only by saying things, but also on the floor, but just having years under my belt and also the experience, like I'm able to just, again, say what I think, but at the same time, I always say, like, everyone's going to have to get through it, on their own, and I can tell you whatever, but you have to experience it yourself, and I think the most thing is just be yourself and do the things that got us here in the first place, and we can't change it now.
Jamal on the right.
Pascal, I want to ask you about the defense. And just in this year and change since you've been here, how have you seen this group grow defensively, and just what did it take for you all to get to the level that you've been playing at, in the finals and just throughout the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's, I think just from when I first got here, like most of the narrative was like, oh yeah, like they play fast, they don't play defense, right? Like that was the thing. And I've seen there's just the growth of everyone, the coach has been doing an awesome job preparing us for games, and everyone is willing to put the effort in, and also I think when you see the results, like from the defense, like you have no choice but to commit to it, and I think the guys have been tremendous. I can name so many guys. Obviously Drew as like kind of like the leader, where it's like he's gonna guard the best player every single night. We got Double A. Miles blocking shots. Like we have so many people that can do so many things, but it's mostly a team defense, and everyone is committed to it, I'll say.
Third row on your left, last question.
Pascal, considering how the game 4 ended, I think it's fair to say that Indiana missed a good opportunity to go up 3-1 in this series. Considering this is a final series that can be so exhausting in a long series, do you think skipping your goal is the right way to do right now?
Wait, doing what is the right way?
To be relaxed, to forget all the things that.
No, I mean we had to move on, right? Like it's like we have a game tomorrow, so I think we got to understand what's at stake here, and as much as we want to win, I'm sure that the guys over there want to do the same. So every game is going to be a battle, and I don't really look at things like that way of like missed opportunity or whatever. Like we all go into this wanting to win, and sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. And I think we just got to move on, and that's something that we've been good at, is just moving on to the next. And no matter what the odds are, and no matter what it is, like we always believe in ourselves, and we go out there and we give our best, and we live with the results. So I don't look at anything in life as like a missed opportunity. I just know that there's always something that's coming up, and we just got to believe and move on to the next, and do everything that we've been doing to get to where we at today. So we're going to keep doing that.
Thank you, Pascal. Coach will be in shortly. First question, Joe here in front.
Hey, Rick. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thank you. I remember early in the Cavs series, DA asked you about why there's no momentum in playoff series. You guys had a good discussion about it, but applying that to now, when you're in the finals and it's 2-2 and you had the loss that you had, does the fact that games don't seem to carry over, does that make moving on from what happened easier to get ready for Game 5?
I'm not sure I understand what your question is. Say it again?
The fact that there doesn't seem to be momentum that carries over from one game to the next in a playoff series, does that make it easier then to move on from as tough of a loss as you had in Game 4?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's momentum. I mean, it's hard to exactly gauge. I think maybe some of it fades with longer stretches between games, but between 3 and 4 was one day. I thought there was momentum there. I thought we played well for 3 quarters and then struggled in the fourth, and had a much better start in that game. So I don't know. I'm not haven't given it a lot of thought. It's kind of for us and for the coaching staff and the players, it's analyzing momentum is not really part and parcel to what's going on like right now, and having to do a better job going and getting the ball off the boards and and avoiding fouls and things like that. So, but it's an interesting question.
Second row on the left.
Pollock from China, Pacers.com. How is Jarvis Rocker doing? Will he be able to practice today?
No, he's doing better. He's off crutches, and he's walking with a slight limp now. So it's very unlikely that he'll be able to play in this series. But he is doing better. And it would be great if he was available, because I do think he would help us.
Next row back on the left.
Guilherme Giovannoni from ESPN Brazil. Pascal Siakam last game had a great first 3 quarters with 20 points, but
who's that?
Siakam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he had only 1 shot in the last quarter. What was the problem that you guys couldn't find him in the rhythm to make him keep playing?
Yeah, talked about it yesterday. That can't happen. He's a guy that, if we're not playing through him, he needs to touch the ball more. Problems that hindered us in the fourth quarter were inability to rebound the ball, unnecessary fouls. Those things
have us taking the ball out of bounds after they score, or having to take it out after a free throw, and then they can really set their defense, and then the game becomes slower. So those doing better in those two areas, the rebounding and the fouls. I mean, that will help us, but it's a challenge. I mean, they put a lot of pressure on you in the fourth quarter. I mean, they've got some great players that cause major problems.
Next row back.
Hi, Coach. Tencent from China. So you were up double digit at one point in the third quarter and had control of the game for most part of the game, but in the fourth you were outscored 31-17, and then eventually you lost the game. How much does that kind of a loss affect the team mentally or physically, especially in the playoff series? And how much of a role do you think the officiating played in the last game?
Well, I mean, tough losses are a part of a playoff series. And, it's just, if this was easy, I mean, they'd be pulling people off the street to play in the NBA Finals. And coach, it's just not, and do what you guys are doing. I mean, you guys are the best in the world. Everybody else here is perceived to be the best in the world at this moment. And so it's difficult, So, but you look at it, you take it for what it is, and it becomes pretty clear the things that you need to do to be better. And our job, as a staff, is to take those things, simplify them, communicate them in a simple, concise way, and so that we can do better. And so, that's it. As far as officiating, I think it's awful what some of the things I've seen about the officiating, and Scott Foster in particular. I've known Scott Foster for 30 years. He's a great official. He's done a great job in these playoffs. We've had him a lot of times, and the ridiculous scrutiny that's being thrown out there is terrible, and unfair and unjust and stupid.
On your right, Sam.
Hi, Rick. Sam Amick, The Athletic. I had a Pascal question, but now you have me curious. When you're in the middle of the finals, I don't know your consumption habits. What came your way in terms of Scott and the commentary that?
I'm not getting into it. I've said what I'm going to say.
Okay.
If you have another question, ask it. If
Sure.
not, we'll move on.
I've heard that you were a fan of Pascal long before you guys obviously went out and targeted him. When did he first cross your desk as a guy that you thought was special? And then once you got him in the building, I wonder, as a leader, he just talked about it a minute ago, just what have you seen from him beyond his talent as a leader with your group?
Well, he's extremely versatile. I mean, I don't know. Was Dwayne Casey the coach when they drafted him? I think he may have been. And Dwayne did a great job of developing him, and they had him with the 905 in the G League, and he really had to earn his way. And as you watch a guy's career, as he ascends, coaches take note of the steps that players have had to take to get to where they are. And I always thought that the fact that he had to really earn it, and that he had continued to get so much better, and appeared to have this humility about how he approached everything, just made him very special. And so, a year and a half ago now, when we had the chance to trade for him, there was no doubt to me that he would fit into our team and adjust to our system. But frankly, there was no doubt to me that he would fit into any team, any style, and play at an extremely high level. And so we're fortunate to have him. His experience has been a major part of the growth of our team and our young guys over the last 2 years. And we've just got to make sure that he gets more than one shot in the fourth quarter and that he's touching the ball more.
Jamal, last question on the right.
Rick, I wanted to ask you about your defense and the growth that you guys have had really since the start of last year till now. Just what did it take for you guys to get to the level that you're playing at during the finals and throughout the playoffs?
Well, at first it was a decision that this is important, and we had to get the players to co-sign on it, and they did, and we just went to work, and I mean, this was December of, I guess it was 23, when we kind of had that moment of, this offensive barrage is not going to hold up, which we were putting on the whole league, and so we went to work. Jenny Busick has been a big part of this. Her and Jim Boylan work our defensive stuff. Jenny's the one during games that is in charge of matchups, changing defenses, all kinds of stuff, and she's done an amazing job. And it's not just the coaching of it. There's a relationship building element that's absolutely critical to recruiting a group of players, young players, over to your way of thinking when it comes to something like defense. That in today's age of young players and development, this is not something that players in the AAU level are leaning into, saying, I can't wait to get in there and do the shell drill, and to do things like that, So we have exceptionally great guys on our team, as does Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been building their defensive thing, for many years now, and they've done a terrific job. But if we were going to ever get to this point, our defense had to get better, and Jim and Jenny have had great impact on that.
Thank you, Coach.